Jungkook stared at the pale blue wall of the hospital room, unmoving, lips slightly parted like he was stuck between gasping for air and choking on the truth. Taehyung hadn't said a word since the nurse left. Just sat there. Still. Quiet. Too quiet. The silence between them was suffocating. Finally, Jungkook whispered, voice cracked and raw, "I didn't want you to find out like this." Taehyung blinked slowly, his jaw clenched. "You were going to hide it from me forever." "I didn't know what else to do," Jungkook murmured. "You hated me. You used me. I didn't think you'd want anything to do with the baby." Taehyung flinched. The truth stung more than he expected. Because deep down, he knew it was true. He hadn't treated Jungkook like a person, let alone someone he once cared about. "I never planned this," Jungkook added softly, one hand drifting to his stomach. "And I'm scared all the time. I'm scared of being alone. Scared of what people will say. Scared of what you'll do." Taehyung stood up abruptly, pushing the chair back with a screech. "You think I'd abandon you?" His voice cracked, like it surprised even him. Jungkook didn't answer. Because he didn't know anymore. Taehyung paced the room, running a hand through his hair. 12 weeks. You've been hiding this for 3 months. Jungkook's fingers curled into the thin hospital blanket. Because every time I looked at you, I remembered the night you told me you only slept with me to get back at my brother. Silence. Taehyung's expression shattered. "That's not," he swallowed hard. "I didn't mean it like that. You said you ruined me." "I said that because I ruined myself too." Taehyung's voice rose, raw and sharp. "Because I couldn't stop thinking about you after everything. Because I hated myself for hurting you, for needing you even when I swore I wouldn't." Jungkook's breath caught. He looked up at Taehyung, really looked, and saw for the first time, not the cold boss, not the calculating man behind glass walls, but a man unraveling. "I didn't plan to fall in love with you," Taehyung said, voice shaking. "But I did." Jungkook's heart skipped. The monitors beeped steadily in the background. And the air between them hung heavy with everything they had never said. "I'm sorry," Taehyung whispered. "I'm sorry for everything." Jungkook looked away, tears slipping quietly down his cheek. "It's not that easy, Tae. I know." He crossed the room slowly, kneeling beside the bed. "But I want to try. I want to be here, for you, for the baby. I want to earn this, if you'll let me." Jungkook stared at him. Then down at the space between them. Then, he reached out. And for the first time in months, Taehyung held his hand again. Soft. Careful. Like he was holding something precious. And maybe, he finally understood that he was. The ride back from the hospital was silent, but not the painful kind of silence that used to hang between them like a blade. It was cautious. Hopeful. Jungkook sat in the passenger seat, one hand resting protectively over his stomach. Taehyung drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting lightly on the center console, close, but not quite touching him. They hadn't talked about what would come next. No promises were made. But Taehyung had looked him in the eyes and said, "I want to try," and Jungkook, despite everything, had reached out and held his hand. Taehyung's apartment hadn't changed. Cold lighting. Sharp lines. Minimalist furniture that looked untouched. It still felt like a place you walked through, not lived in. Jungkook hovered awkwardly near the door as Taehyung took his quote. "You can sleep in the guest room," Taehyung said quickly. "I'll bring extra pillows." "No," he paused, eyes flicking to Jungkook's. I mean, I'd rather stay close. Just for tonight, Jungkook glanced down. In case something happens. Taehyung hesitated, then nodded. You can take the bed. I'll sleep on the couch. But when midnight came, and the thunder outside cracked like glass, it wasn't Taehyung who got up first. Jungkook appeared at the edge of the living room, barefoot, oversized shirt clinging to his slender frame. Tae, the sound of his voice, soft, uncertain, cut through the distance. Taehyung stood immediately. Are you okay? Jungkook nodded slowly, though his eyes glistened in the low light. I keep dreaming, he whispered. That you leave. That I wake up and you're gone again. Taehyung stepped closer, hands flexing at his sides like he didn't know where to put them. I'm not going anywhere. Jungkook looked up at him then. Then stay tonight. Taehyung froze. Jungkook reached for his hand. Just to sleep. That night, they lay side by side under the same blanket. The silence now was warm, filled with soft breathing and hesitant glances. Jungkook turned onto his side, curling gently, his back to Taehyung. A long pause. Then, fingers, light as a whisper, touched his arm. May I? Taehyung murmured. Jungkook didn't answer with words. Just took his hand and guided it over the soft curve of his belly. Taehyung exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for months. His palm rested gently on the swell of life beneath Jungkook's skin. And then, a tiny flutter. Taehyung's eyes widened. Was that? Jungkook smiled, barely. Your baby. For the first time, Taehyung didn't feel like the cold boss, or the man driven by revenge. He felt like something else entirely. Like a father. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Jungkook didn't feel alone. The morning after they shared a bed again, Jungkook awoke to the smell of something unfamiliar in Taehyung's apartment, breakfast. He shuffled into the kitchen, hair messy, wearing one of Taehyung's oversized t-shirts, to find the man himself awkwardly flipping pancakes, burnt at the edges, but still trying. I didn't know what you were craving, Taehyung said, eyes flicking to him nervously. So, I made everything on the table: toast, eggs, pancakes, fruit, and something that vaguely resembled a smoothie. Jungkook blinked. You cooked? I tried. Taehyung scratched the back of his neck, suddenly shy. They said on a forum that your appetite might come back in the second trimester. Jungkook laughed, softly, sincerely, for the first time in weeks. Taehyung looked at him like he wanted to memorize the sound. Later that week, Jungkook agreed to go with him to a prenatal class. It was awkward at first. Most of the other couples looked perfect and polished, holding hands and smiling like movie posters. Taehyung, in contrast, looked painfully out of place in his custom suit, sitting stiffly beside Jungkook like a malfunctioning robot. But when the instructor asked the partners to kneel behind and support the pregnant parent during breathing exercises, Taehyung didn't hesitate. He moved behind Jungkook, resting one hand over his stomach and the other gently on his shoulder. Jungkook leaned back into him without thinking. Their breaths synchronized. For those few minutes, it felt like the world didn't have to crash again. But not everyone was ready to let them have peace. The moment Taehyung brought Jungkook back to the office, accompanied, protected, whispers exploded like wildfire. He's still working here. Wait, isn't that the boss's ex-fling and now he's pregnant? Taehyung heard every word. So did Jungkook. He lowered his gaze and gripped the strap of his bag tighter, willing himself not to cry. Taehyung's voice echoed suddenly through the hall. If anyone has something to say it to me. Silence. He stepped forward, eyes burning into every staff member. Jian Jungkook is under my protection. Anyone disrespecting him is disrespecting me. Is that clear? Heads nodded. Feet scattered. Jungkook stood frozen, staring at him. And Taehyung turned to him. Quieter now. You don't have to do this alone anymore. Jungkook's voice cracked as he whispered. Why are you doing this? Taehyung's answer was simple. Because I want to deserve you. That night, when they returned to the apartment, Jungkook stepped into the bedroom, paused, then turned back. Will you stay again? He asked. Taehyung only nodded. And as they lay together under the blankets, hand resting over their child again, a fragile kind of peace began to bloom. But peace doesn't last forever. Because soon, a ghost from Taehyung's past will return. And everything they built will be put to the test.